Hello and welcome back to Bullets and Milk, our Westworld after show. It's essentially the unofficial, official Westworld after show or companion show for Westworld. I think I said Westworld enough. Make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube and keep the conversation going on Twitter. We're using the hashtag Bullets and Milk.
You're about to interrupt him, aren't you?
I'm not.
He's coming in for the kill.
I was just looking over.
You saw my peripheral. He was coming in to take your spotlight.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my gosh.
Do we do it over? I don't know.
Yeah, let's do that one more time.
I didn't do anything.
I thought that was great.
All right.
What up?
Boom. Welcome to Bullets and Milk, our Westworld after show. It's the unofficial Westworld after show for Westworld, hit HBO TV show. We should be the official Westworld after show, I think. That would be better.
Official.
No? Nobody's going to know. I'm sorry, I continued because Joe was like...
You've been talking to me this whole time?
So I was like, I'm going to go. All right.
Wait, was that not the intro? What's going on here?
No. I stopped when you were like... I know what you were doing.
I think these are all going to be great.
Yeah.
You have a lot to choose from.
All right.
It's fine.
This is official. This is,
All right, let's do it. Let's just get it now.
starting.
Welcome to Bullets and Milk, our Westworld after show, here on that hashtag show. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and keep the conversation going on Twitter and Instagram with the hashtag Bullets and Milk. I'm Daniel, and to my right is the lovely Myverick and Joseph.
Hey, how are you guys
Get
this
it
weekend?
together.
I'm
Lock it
fine.
up.
I'm fine.
What's wrong with you today?
Me?
You looked very amped for this
Why
week.
are you guys blaming me? I literally didn't say anything.
You look amped for this week. Is it because this week was so good?
This week was amazing.
Why don't we check it out?
There you go. Let's roll the clip.
The maze itself is the sum of a man's life. Choices he makes, dreams he hangs on to. It's an old native myth.
The maze is all that matters now.
It's a difficult thing, realizing your entire life is some hideous fiction.
So, episode 6, The Adversary. Before we even get into this episode, can I point out a few things that happened last week? One thing was Elazo. Did anybody know that Elazo means the loop?
No.
Did you guys know that?
In what
No way.
language?
In Spanish, apparently. That's what it says. I looked up translation. It says the loop.
Oh, Maverick wasn't here last weekend.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
week.
Which is
Still watch the show.
but it's really appropriate for Lawrence. Think about it. I mean, we saw him die, get hung, and drained, and then boom, we see him right over there in someone else's storyline. So I still want to know what's going on with that. But that was last week. Mm-hmm. We kind of discussed that, which was interesting. Also, did anyone notice last week, close to the end, when Delores was in the train headed to the front, as they called it, with Lawrence or Elazo and William, that when she walks up to the little coffin that has the maze on it, she, speaks to Arnold and says, "I'm coming." But then behind her, where Lawrence and William were, they're not there anymore.
Yeah, she was in an empty cart.
Yeah, that is scary. The clip's down below, but you guys see it. That tripped me out. I'm sorry. I loved it. I researched so much. So, moving into this week, we start off with Maeve, and she wakes up starting her loop, and it's like a Groundhog Day kind of thing. And she's walking through unaffected by any and everything that's happening. There's a guy that's getting gunned down in the middle of the street. She's strolling through, and while she is, of course, we hear Radiohead.
I
love
love the song choice. I got it right off the bat.
That was good. It's a song about like relationships and realizing the disillusionment that is a relationship and how it's breaking apart. So that's kind of interesting when you consider her relationship as far as that town and
I
how
love
it's falling apart.
I mean, I know we talk about this all the time about how the way that Westworld portrays these nowadays songs is so fitting to Westworld, but even then, just as someone who enjoys music, it's so musically pleasing. It's just it's so well put together. The way that whoever composed this, it was.
Oh yeah,
It's the same composer or the same guy that did the Warcraft movie.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
Yeah,
That
he's a decently known
Composer. Yeah. Yeah.
Fun fact, guys.
Fun
Things you learn here at the Westworld After Show.
Hey.
Bullets and Milk.
Bullets of milk. Bullets of milk.
Matt, I have a question for you. So if
Lord.
no, it's not a bad question.
Okay.
Why you get? Anyway, perfect world. If you could hear any Disney song in the Westworld, kind of like old timey piano, what would it be?
Well, it's funny. I think for Mulan, like when she's asking her about her reflection, and she's asking like who she is really, because she's trying to identify that a lot. I don't know if I'm a huge
I've never
Disney
seen
fan.
Mulan. I've never seen Mulan.
So
Could you
she's
give us just a couple
she's
bars?
struggling with her identity and like who she is and like who her family wants us to be. What? No, I'm not
No,
singing.
just a little. Just a little.
When will my reflection show?
Now, hearing that would be great.
But that
I would
also
love
would
to.
make sense to the show. Like,
Right.
yeah, but like Daniel, if you had to pick a song of current pop culture,
Oh, current pop culture?
Or, you know, any
Shoot,
song.
I don't know. They already did Fake Plastic Trees, which I loved. And then I was going to think of anything else from Radiohead, OK Radio or Radio Computer A, but they already did. So it's like, I don't have anything else right now.
all right. So what about continue on?
Oh,
Sorry.
really? Yeah.
I just took us
What
on a
about
little
you?
si-
What
little
about you?
side journey, little side quest.
But what about you?
What would you pick?
What would I pick? I mean, just any song had it not been
Well,
associated
you
with
were
anything.
put me in a box and said Disney, so
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna put me in a box and say anything? I can say
yeah,
anything.
your box
Yeah.
is a lot
My
bigger.
box is a lot bigger. I want to hear something that you would totally not see, really in Westworld, but something that you'd be like, oh, okay, like that would make sense, like Michael Jackson, like that or something. That would be really cool for the Man in Black. Maybe the Man in Black by Johnny Cash.
Oh,
I see what you're
nice,
saying, yeah.
nice. So Maeve intentionally gets strangled, and that was something that was interesting. to me.
No, so I thought it was smart because now,
Now
you know,
she's figured out how to get back into the real world
exactly.
to take her life every time, because that's where they take them back every time someone dies.
So we have to assume that from the last episode that when she woke up, what's the character's name? That's the doctor, the Asian
Felix.
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 He obviously didn't wipe her mind because she says, Felix, we have to talk.
Yes. Well, she wakes up and says immediately, Felix, we have to talk with the bird on her finger.
Right. So
I think it, but I don't think that's necessarily that she's been wiping her mind. I think that she was just kind of playing dead the whole time and,
There you
and
go.
listening to these men have these conversations.
Oh, yeah,
So
good
of course
call.
that's why she's gonna be like, all right, Felix, like I've been listening this whole time. I know who you are.
thanks, Maverick.
But it's still interesting nonetheless because I thought through the system they're supposed to wipe them, or at least clear them
Yeah, that's
from the
what
new
I'm saying.
loop. But yet she's still retaining to it. She's still retaining it. So either he was just really bad at his job, or somehow she's pulling him out every time because she remembers Felix, she remembers Sylvester, and she knew that it had to die to show back up there as soon as possible
Sure.
because he noticed immediately, like, dude, she's here again, that quick.
You know what that reminds me of? Have you guys ever seen The Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise?
Oh yeah.
I'm familiar with them.
It's with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. He kind of gets the sense of like the day's repeating itself, but he has to do all these different things.
Yes.
And if he
It
doesn't
reminds
do
me of that
yeah.
with Maeve. Like
Yeah.
she has to die in order to get more information of
Yeah.
what she's supposed to
Oh,
do
yeah.
or what's supposed to happen. To me, I know those are completely different things, but it's very similar to me.
No,
that makes sense.
She has to die to get more information.
Exactly.
So that's exactly it. Groundhog's Day, this, that. It's still the same.
Kind of like, and this is gonna be funny, not even anything to do with TV at all. So when you rock climbing, it's kind of like a puzzle piece where when you're climbing, you can always get so high, and then you have to figure out how to get to the next move, and usually you'll fall, but at least now you know. Because you went that direction, how to get to it. I don't know. I
if you're
kind of
rock
do
that's
that.
smart. That's smart.
If you're rock climbing and you fall, don't you die?
No, not if
they
you're
have
like
the
bouldering.
ropes and everything. Like,
No, well that's with
don't
harness,
they?
but bouldering you have mats and things, and you're
Oh.
not usually climbing at an extreme height. And there's people who will catch you and stuff. But usually it's a trial and error kind
People
of
that
thing.
would catch you, they would.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they'll catch you. They won't catch
The
me.
point is, it's a trial and error thing. Like you have to keep getting further and further along to figure out how to keep the puzzle going.
Sure.
Anyway,
Got to keep things going. I understand.
Yeah.
And also, we keep things going. We had Elsie and Bernard, who went and became Sherlock and Watson, trying to figure out what's actually going on
You know
in the
what's
park.
interesting about Bernard in particular to me was I could have sworn that he was definitely part of the plan.
in on it, yeah.
In on it,
Yeah.
definitely. But now, and even all the way up until this episode, I was like, man, maybe he is, maybe. And then I was like, he has no clue
No.
of what's really going
No.
on. And that's the intriguing part about this whole world building process that they've done is that they have you double think characters that you like and don't like. And I know we'll get to Teddy later, and I have a huge thing about him too. I think I got a man crush.
Oh. Well,
Way to go, way to go.
I do think, but then it
William
just
is
also
hot.
capitalizes on the fact that everybody has their own agenda constantly. And so, I mean, maybe Bernard is in on it in a different scheme. Like, there's, like, obviously something else going on behind the scenes that he's not a part of, but I still think that he's got something he's been doing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Listen, everybody that's in... and
seriously.
funny enough, even some of the minor characters like Felix and Sylvester, like, I said that really fast. I said Felix and Sylvester. So even some of these minor characters, they even have their own issues or backstories that you may not know. Like, and this is the first time. Oh man, I'm jumping around. But again, we saw the guy that does all the programming, the writing of the stories of the different.
Sizemore, he's back.
Sizemore's back, and we haven't seen him in a while.
Oh man,
I remember you thinking last week. I was like,
kind of.
man, did Sizemore is he just gone? But you knew he had to eventually come back.
Because they didn't give him a proper exit, so it was like,
well, they give him
okay,
a bitter exit of like what's going to happen next. So I assumed that they would touch on it in the next episode,
right?
But man, this episode did so much. It did so much in the hour it was given,
dude. Like,
it answered questions from previous episodes, but it also even answered questions that were posed in this episode.
Oh yeah, which was cool. Which was very cool. But so Bernard and Elsie, they figure out that they need to know what's going on with the transmission, as far as who's transmitting data out. And there's some code that can only be read by super old, like
first generation.
Yeah, archaic computers downstairs, first generation stuff. So he heads down to the basement, B82, which. It's a sci-fi reference, B82, like basement 82. It's like, how many basements are there? Don't understand why. But then from there, when he gets down there, did you guys notice how in the cold storage, why is the cold storage so disheveled?
You know, I questioned that myself. Well, I didn't know.
That whole basement area, why is it so, like, just dark, falling apart?
Because it was
and
setting the tone of... I think it was the director's way of setting the tone of making sure that you knew that at this point you weren't safe anymore. And you were going to get information that was very, like, without a shadow of a doubt, going to change the plot. Mm-hmm. And I think that was, like, the tone of what that was when they went down there. You saw the lights flickering. It seemed almost like a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Back to the first episode, though, too. There was, like,
that's what I was going to say. The cold storage.
Yeah.
And the water just like overflowing in that whole cold storage area.
I literally have no idea what we're talking about right now. I don't know where we left off. I'm so sorry.
Oh really?
No,
we were talking about the cold storage.
Right, like every time that they're having to take an elevator down. Well, the first time that we see them going down into the elevator is
it was like a Reaper core.
Pretty much. Almost.
Well, they said the AC was broken, and so like as soon as the elevator opens, like the water just starts flushing in.
Yeah,
you're like, what is going on?
But it's just like, man, everything down below. It's like they just built on top of it and just said, "I forget it. This is bad," and let's just build on top. And it just kept going up and up and up. Did you guys notice the Easter egg with Yul Brynner? Pretty much there was like a little silhouette of the Man in Black
from the original film.
Yes, showing her on the tablet. It's so cool. And then after that,
was just wild.
Blah, blah, blah. That was wild. Can you say
Yul Brynner was a great actor, but he was the original Man in Black. Do you know that? Do you even know who Yul Brynner is? He's a old-time Western actor.
I do now.
You can see him right there. The old-time Western actor. Okay. But yeah, so he was the original Man in Black in the old films, and now I'm wondering, like, so with that being there, are they trying to give us an Easter egg, or was the film actually canon?
Well, here's the thing. Like, we know that Jonathan Nolan is one of the writers on this, and he's known for kind of playing, toting the line between what we're perceiving as real and what we're kind of playing tricks with our own mind.
Right.
And Chris Nolan's also known for the same thing, Inception.
Very true.
And I think that with that, it's TBD.
All right,
Not necessarily sure what's happening, but if it is a throwback to the original Man in Black, I personally don't think it's going to tie into the original at all.
Yeah, it seems like it's just more like a hats off.
Yeah, like an homage.
Contribute to the old one.
Okay, So
I
it's
didn't mean
just
to finish
simple.
your sentence there.
So it was just a
That's what we're
simple.
here
It was
for.
a simple Easter egg. So that's fine. I mean, also something that was to be determined was Bernard discovering that there were 5 unregistered kind of hosts in Sector 17. Sector 17 also a reference to something that happened in the film. Don't worry about it. It's nothing big.
Why'd you bring it up then?
Well, because I'm just letting everybody know that I know what the hell I'm talking about. So anyway.
But then now you're gonna waste their time trying to find this out on. Do you know
Sector
what I mean?
17 was just simple reference on the film when they were first getting into Westworld. There was like a drone pilot, and it was saying now passing over Sector 17, and they were saying it's farther from the park, and there are things that happen there that don't happen anywhere else, and they told people to stay away from it.
You're like the Dawn
That's
of
it.
Westworld.
I am. I will.
Dawn of Westworld.
I'll go into it. Right. I go into the Westworld. Anyway,
What episode did it talk about that?
this one where it says Sector 17,
But when
and they
he's
were
talking, he's referencing
unregistered.
the film.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what I was like. I don't remember seeing that. Okay.
She was like, "What is he talking about?"
Okay,
I'm just gonna
so
look
you're
at him
talking about the
nice.
movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was just a reference back to it when they said Sector 17. So then after that, we get to Ford and actually, was it Ford? I think. Yeah, it was. Ford was in that town with his little cleanup crew, or
Yeah.
actually reconstruction crew. And
Now, was I mistaken? Was that not the town that Lawrence was in?
Yeah.
that is. That's Pariah.
Pariah.
And while he was in Pariah, he happened to notice, and this was like, I think it was overkill, and this is something that a lot of people were unhappy with. The maze was everywhere. It was on the table. It was on the cards. It was on something
Maze
else.
Mania.
It was Maze Mania everywhere. And it was like, he
this
kept
one
seeing
thing
it.
that was like for at least 6 episodes, just hidden underneath like skulls.
Well, let me
and
ask you
things are
guys.
Finally, like
Right?
everywhere.
What's your opinion on that, actually? Because I know you said fans were unhappy with that, but do you think that they're using the maze too much in your face at this point, or do you think you liked it better when it was just more of a secretive kind of like, oh well, this is a symbol here that leads you to the, you know what I mean?
For me, I get what you're saying, but for me, it's kind of like the whole thing of, well, for example, if you drive a Mustang, you don't really notice too many Mustangs on the street until you're actually sitting behind one. And you're like, yeah, I've got one. Then you start to
I
notice every
don't know.
Mustang.
I don't hate it because this reminds me, and this show is very similar as Lost. You better have watched it. And
She still has it.
when Lost had the numbers 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, but
yeah.
you saw those all the time after they were exposed.
That's what I'm saying.
And
It's
this
the
is
same
very
thing.
much the same thing. But I don't think it personally for me, I think it's maybe they were there all along and now we're seeing them more, or maybe they are putting them more out there, because you got to think though, they're trying to plant it in our heads that the maze is an important part of the story.
Right,
Very
but it was
subconsciously.
also only the only time that the maze was ever really referenced or brought about visually was with the Man in Black.
Sure, yeah, no,
And then,
or
now it's become like obviously Bernard talks to Delores about the maze. So
Yep.
now we're further out in Westworld. So now the maze is maybe more predominant, and that's what happens. The further out you get from the main part of Westworld in
Sweetwater.
town, from Sweetwater
Sweetwater.
to town, that more symbolisms of the maze
you-
comes about. But I agree. I would appreciate it if we were almost to the end of our show, but we're only on 6, so
It's overkill.
that's
Wait.
kind of where. What?
You'd appreciate it if we were closer to the end.
No,
As
not
far
like our
as
show,
how many times they
Westworld.
keep showing
No, but
the
why?
maze.
Because then, just with like just how I said this episode and last week's episode, I was like, oh yeah, like we're finally getting answers.
you're-
Like we're
you're-
about to like figure out the maze and all
You're getting
the,
impatient, is what you're waiting. You're anticipating.
No. I'm not getting impatient at all. It just seems like now that they're putting the maze so much more in your face, that like, oh, we're about to figure it out. But we're only on episode 6, so it doesn't really seem like.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like-
It's kind of like what I said, which I feel that the maze right now just inundating us with images of the
I have
maze
a
is kind of
question.
like, it's too much
I know
iconomy.
I've been saying a lot. I have a question.
Economy?
But this, I really do have a question. I don't know if you actually know the answer, if anybody at home knows the answer. Have we ever seen the maze with William yet? Like, has there been any? Because he's pretty far out. too
Yeah,
now.
when they were out in Pariah also, he saw it also.
William did?
Yeah.
Oh, because I don't recall him.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
he did. I don't recall.
They saw it, and they also saw it on the
they did see it. They did see it on the
They also
coffin.
saw it on the
I think they
coffins.
also saw it on a table too somewhere.
They did. No,
remember
that's
correctly.
that's why it was in Pariah,
Right.
and then after that,
You're
now
right.
Ford saw it on the same table.
Sure,
And it's like, but he saw it on the
But
table.
William doesn't
He
really
saw
have
it
an
on the
agenda with
cards.
Not
No,
yet, at least.
Right.
Not yet.
Right.
But
Bum, bum, bum.
but we do remember that Delores kind of, told him we have to go and we have to leave this town. We have to get on this train. Which also, how did she know the train schedule in that town? Like she knew everything about that town.
Well,
all of a sudden out of
maybe
nowhere.
Dolores is like William's like good luck, like a little ladybug,
A little, what?
Like ladybugs are supposed to bring you good luck.
Yeah.
Maybe like that's his like ladybug is like because he's bringing him good luck. Where he knows now she's unlocking the pieces of the puzzle in her head. Why are you looking at me like
Because
that?
now I'm looking at you like no. So she's,
like, all right,
okay.
Bear with me for a little bit. Do you get what I'm saying?
Keep going.
So
It's
like
a good luck charm. I get it.
yes, but I just referenced a ladybug.
Yeah.
But like because not good luck charm per se, but more so that like she is, or he is actually. Well, they're both helping each other in a way, but going on this journey is triggering things in her brain.
Okay.
But the things that are triggering in her brain are leading William on the path that I think that now he's realizing that
He needs to go
he's
on.
kind of meant to take.
I get it.
Does that make sense?
So yes, Ladybug, I agree. Congratulations, you won me over.
I get it a little bit, and it's just funny though because how Delores, like in last week's episode, whenever she kisses William for the first time, she's like, "I need you for this."
Yeah.
So maybe again, this is all that voice that's in her head that she knows like she knows that this train is how she gets out, and she knows that this is a key element and a key factor to her to get to the maze. So, I mean, I guess I could say that this is a good luck charm, but I also think that she has another agenda.
Well, definitely now, but I think I don't want to. Maybe good luck charm was the wrong thing to use.
At
but
the
like
moment, it was what it was.
they need
useful,
each
but-
other, obviously, in a symbiotic kind of relationship. Not so much like she's his good luck charm to help him because he didn't have an agenda really going to Westworld.
Right, that's what I would definitely say that I think this is all Dolores' agenda. We haven't really figured out what William's doing
maybe
there.
William's her ladybug. Because now she's unlocking all the.
Ooh.
He's kind of them meeting like that, and actually the Logan putting them down that path is unlocking
Right.
all this stuff for her.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's like I said, symbiotic kind of a relationship. Sorry, back to what you were talking
No,
about.
I mean
just kind of
that's
veered
good.
off
That's
the path.
good. It still works together because it's all wibbly wobbly inside of the maze. And it's all crazy anyway. And then we get to see Ford rush back to his office and look for that sketchbook to find the sketching of the maze
Yeah.
that Arnold drew. So that's Arnold's book, and he still has it. I don't know. I'm thinking possibly Ford may have killed Arnold, and he's holding on to his stuff. But I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
George W.
Wow, George W. What?
Elections are soon. So.
Are you saying George W. killed Cheney and Cheney's a robot?
No. But like, you think of George W.'s relationship with Cheney, like one was kind of like the figurehead, while the other one
Other one
kinda
really
ran-
pulled the string.
pulled the
I
string.
get what you're saying. Yeah.
Not in a
Yeah,
political rant, just
Yeah,
kind of like
sorry.
saying that
Sorry,
like
guys,
the way that
we
it was
didn't mean it.
perceived.
Understandable,
Perceived.
but still going into it, Teddy gives us a breakdown of the myth, of the myth of the maze itself and how the natives see it. I'm gonna have to read it verbatim.
Well, and before you get into that,
Yes.
I wanted to point out something that I had a question about. Maybe you guys could answer. And the question is that Teddy recognizes the maze and he's aware of it, and now apparently like he knows about it. So
He knows about the myth of the maze.
right.
Yeah.
But my question is that. Even like you'll notice in last week and then especially this week's episode, like Teddy's got this like whole other personality to him, and even the Man in Black's like, you think you know somebody. But I'm wondering, is the only reason why he knows the maze is because of that new upgrade that was been given
being
to him?
frank, I think that there is to me in this episode, I think Teddy was the most interesting character
Yeah.
because
But is it all because of the upgrade that
See,
Ford
this
put
is
into
where it's
him?
really interesting because I'm not so
I-
certain now that was an upgrade as much as it was a keyword to unlock something else in Teddy.
Right. And we discussed that. We figured that Teddy was a past person that he had played before, and that there wasn't an actual, like, he didn't make this up. He was planting into him a previous character, a previous storyline that had already been there before. I agree with that.
I think that and this is gonna. Are we on this Teddy part yet? Where I can talk about this?
Well, I mean,
wanna go?
we're gonna talk. Let's go ahead and talk.
I think. All right, so Wyatt is very similar to the Man in Black in terms of like their mystique.
Okay.
Like we know we've seen the Man in Black, obviously.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily know much about him. And now we're getting a lot of pieces, obviously. But with Teddy, I think it's very interesting because as soon as we hear about Wyatt, Teddy kind of freaks out. You know, right off the bat when he first hears about him. Now, something I noticed is that Wyatt is known as a killer, and Teddy even makes reference to like when he sees all these people that are butchered when they're going. I know I'm kind of skipping around because we'll get there though. When we're seeing the Union Army, I think it's the Union Army.
Yeah.
When they're passing him up, he's like, "Oh, that's Wyatt's hand. That's Wyatt's handiwork." Because Wyatt is kind of like I don't want to say torturer, but he's definitely
He's gone beyond. Actually, he's elevated beyond or gone to another echelon when it comes to dealing with the way he does
wasn't
things.
satisfying
Sure,
him enough with
but-
the way he was killing. So
But Teddy talks about Wyatt in his backstory, saying that was my sergeant, and that's kind of like what happened. Did you notice that when Teddy actually put on his jacket, and even in those flashbacks, he was also a sergeant?
Yes.
Now, what if Teddy is actually Wyatt? And
that crossed my mind.
and the thing is almost kind of like a Fight Club thing. He saw
okay.
like it's a departure from the character, but he kind of saw what kind of happened because Teddy was always a passive guy, and then we're gonna get there, and I hate jumping ahead, but like he mows down everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like straight up armadillo justice. You know.
My own thing for it. Just to stop. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go no with that about him having the whole Fight Club situation where it's the id versus the ego, because the guy recognizes him as Teddy and then also makes a separate reference to Wyatt within the same
That's true,
sentence.
he does.
So it couldn't be the two same person.
It's true. That's true.
That is good.
That's just what I noticed.
That's true.
But that was actually really good. I was like, oh my god, I'm loving this. And I was like, oh no.
I don't know, man.
That was the one thing.
I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
The thing is, my question is, was it Wyatt that did all that murdering, or was it really just Teddy that did it all in that town? Because no one else, the only people that were survived to see all of it happen was Teddy and Wyatt.
Sure.
Wyatt we haven't spoken to at all, and Teddy's the only person we know everything from. And we saw how savage Teddy can be when he needs to be. It wasn't because he was backwards against the wall. It was because, there was a moment where it was overkill, where he started shooting them all, like you said, with the
But
thing.
Teddy
and
also
it was
makes
almost leaving no
Teddy
witnesses.
says something to the effect of like he had to pay for his penance, and I think that like if he was Wyatt, that would make a lot of sense for him to say that because from what we've known of Teddy, from what we've seen of Teddy, he's been a pretty straight edge guy that is always doing the right thing.
Sure.
So what would he really have to pay for at that point?
The only question I'd have is with all the new wounds that when Teddy and the Man in Black approached the camp, these wounds are very recent, very new.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Teddy was beaten and hung up against a tree, and until the Man in Black comes and rescues him, the timeline of that wouldn't make sense whenever he says this is the work of Wyatt.
It's pretty much you're saying I'm wrong.
Well, I was with you on it until he
Yeah,
brought
then
that
I'm
fact up, and then
sorry.
I was like, then the wheels started turning, and then I was like, maybe not.
Fair enough.
But no, still, I do like him. I'm wondering who's the one that's really the savage
Right.
here. Is it Teddy or is it Wyatt? As far as who really did all the horrible work that started it all.
I don't think it's Teddy.
And then also, what's interesting is that the Man in Black told Teddy, and Teddy just believes it. Oh yeah, Wyatt kidnapped Delores, and he's like, oh, now I need to go and get him, and that's all he cares
that's
about.
a trigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly,
it's
and that's all he
It's
cares
like
about.
Like
Like
with Maeve,
Abernathy.
you say certain things that are
but-
going to trigger certain emotions.
And Peter
And-
Abernathy with his daughter, exactly.
Exactly. And one thing I did notice also last week, Teddy was on the brink of death after he got the blood pumped back into him, essentially, through the transfusion. And he's still sitting there, at the table. And then right when
Looking very
Ford...
zen.
looking like
He was out of it.
he was close to dying. And then Ford pretty much gives him a little tap on the shoulder and says something to him to the extent of, buck up, get on your journey. Literally, after Ford does that... we've got to go.
Well, that's because
he's changed. He's not halfway dying.
Well, that's because
he's
it's
up
Ford.
and he's ready to go.
And something we've explored
That's
in this
the thing.
episode, Ford has full control over the verbal commands of every single thing in this park.
And that's the thing. I think Ford wanted him to move on to help make sure that the Man in Black gets to a particular area that he wants him to get to.
I think I mentioned that.
That was cool.
That was like Ford wants the Man in Black to keep exploring and moving on. I think he wants to set him up for a certain thing.
Oh, definitely. Because, well, he needs Teddy, too. And then, so like I said, Teddy does know about the myth. And I'm going to go ahead and read the quote. What did he say? It's the sum of a man's life. In the center of the maze is a legendary man who'd been killed countless times. In return for the last time, he vanquishes all of his oppressors, built a house. Round that house, he built the maze. And it's so complicated that only he could navigate through it. And, I mean, all that sounds to me like, okay, it just sounds like Arnold.
No.
I don't know. What do you think? You think it's Ford?
Listen, here's another crackpot theory for all the folks out there.
Okay.
I think Ford is a host. And the reason I say that is because just listen to I'm going to put a lot of pieces together.
Ahead.
And I can be completely wrong because nobody knows what's going on in Westworld. I don't even think Jonathan knows what's going on in Westworld. But I think what could have happened, this is just my theory, is that Arnold created Ford, almost different versions of Ford, almost as his perfect, I don't want to say host, but his perfect like AI, his perfect free-thinking, autonomous AI. And I think what happened is he created him too well, where Ford outsmarted Arnold to a point.
And then they killed Arnold.
I think that Arnold may have seen it coming, and that's why Arnold now was ahead of Ford in terms of that. So Arnold has eternal life in terms of like downloading his own personal brain, his consciousness into other AIs and unlocking them, so he can always live on forever. But I think that he created Ford, and Ford kind of pushed him out. And I also think that for example, you just read that passage about the house, a man that built this house.
Right.
Well, what if Ford has died countless times in different iterations of Ford, but he always keeps coming back because he's outsmarted the game essentially. And I think that house that we talked about created is literally the house that we saw later on in the episode, where it's Ford's family.
And the young Ford.
Yeah.
But that's my issue then. If Ford is a host, why is there a young version of him? Why is there a version of his actual father, his brother?
Well, those could all be planted memories also. Like in Ford's...
He did say Arnold made them.
He did say Arnold made them.
You're right.
So
you're thinking then that would
listen,
still go...
like
no,
I
that
said,
still
it's just a
goes along
theory.
with your theory.
Which all of it, like again, all of it's very plausible. And I was talking to you about that before, like that he could be a host. But then exactly for that reason, I was like, well, then why would he have a younger version of himself and had that memory? And then it's like, well, all of them have memories of a story that was been planted in there. But then at the same time, it's like I
just feel that would be too easy.
And then
I don't know, man.
But I like
because
it, though.
we also, we're gonna jump around, but Maeve, we also see when she's like, I don't remember that in the opening when he takes her upstairs. When we're gonna touch on that in depth, and she's like, I don't remember that. It was like, well, you've had a lot of different roles here in Westworld.
Yeah, you've been in New Orleans.
But but she's like, oh, those dreams are real, and he's like, well, those aren't dreams. Well, what if What if Ford has just mastered that, and he knows who he was, like from these different iterations where Arnold just got more and more advanced and was kind of creating
and put it all together. That's true, because there was a moment where Logan said Arnold's never been photographed. Logan says that when he's talking to William. He's like, yo, there's a theory, and apparently he says, you literally, yo, there's a theory, and we should buy the park or try to buy them out. And then he mentions to him, like, there's a story that goes where there's this guy who essentially helped one of the creators of the park, and he died somehow in the park or something like that, but there's no pictures of him. We've had the lawyers look it up, and no one sees anything of him. So we don't know what he looks like, and we know that for sure later when we talk about the house. But that's a good point. I like that. I'm sorry, I like that. That's a really good theory.
It's probably completely wrong, but it's out there now.
I want to know what you guys think, though. I do want to know if you guys can chime in, at least, and let us know if you do like Joe's theory, if you can add on to it, give it a little bit more, flesh onto the bone.
Or even debunk it, because maybe there's probably theories that are better. There obviously are theories that are better out there, but it's just one that I thought was like, it's definitely possible.
I mean, it crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
So moving on from there, we had a little bit of trouble in Pariah that they mentioned when the Man in Black and Teddy are heading over towards the hill, and they were saying how Pariah's pretty much shut down.
Vampire
Can't go
hunters.
in there. Can't go in there to shut down, and they have to go around essentially. Does this point to that the MIB and Teddy are in the same timeline as William and Logan, or does it not?
Man, I don't know. And actually, that didn't even cross my mind.
Because I was once they said they were going to Pariah, I was like, they're going to debunk my theory, but it's okay. I'll be happy with it as long as I know now there's no worry about the separate timelines. But yet they didn't go into Pariah, so I don't know. I was just wondering if anyone else thought that. Like, no. Moving on from the timeline. All right, so
that's just a lot to think about and get this whole show in. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So moving on to Felix and Maeve, which is like the best conversation I've ever seen, had, or experienced on this show.
Well, I love that Felix is one of my favorite characters now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think he's a guy that was always just trying to advance in his career and just kind of do kind of the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think now he's really. I didn't think he was gonna be a kind of a decent
integral
sized
part.
growth character.
Right.
But it looks like he is, and I think that the way that he kind of explained everything, even explaining that between Maeve and him about how you're not real and I am.
well, because he was born and she was made.
Yeah,
That was very
even doing
interesting.
that, and she was like, "But we feel the same." And he's like, "Well, he's pretty much like everything that's up here for you is a different thing, and it's all kind of big plan, but it's so complicated. It's more complex than." It was amazing. I thought that conversation to me was like almost chilling, because when he's showing her the pad,
The
with
dialogue
with
tree.
Yeah, I
Oh
think
my
that was
God.
amazing to me, and I was like, man. Because imagine if somebody came out and was like, "Hey, Maverick, you're not real, and I'm gonna prove it to you," and like that's crazy to me.
That's the thing that was
Well,
like.
that's why she has like this
She's
computer meltdown.
She does. It for me that was a big pull, because at that moment it was amazing for me to see that whole dialogue tree, and it was like, no, like this is exactly what's happening. Like this is what you're going to say. And as she's saying it, it starts to pop up and it says conflict, because she stops for a moment and then continues, and it brings up the whole question. Well, this is the question that's been happening on the show, where she asks, well, human or guest, how do you know? And it's a question everyone's asking and speculating about. And then it goes into a bigger one for me when it comes to predestination. And how can your actions, choices, or life all be free will if it's all predestined, essentially, at the same time? And that's something that is always addressed on the show, but not as direct as they did this time. Usually it's been very subtle, where it's just like, oh, well, you're a robot and we've written a script and it's predestined. But then, the guest can come, and if they deviate or change it, and they say, oh, it's just a little bit of improv, but you're still going according to the script. So predestination, free will, how do those two work together? And that's a question that everyone asks. I mean, not even on a religious level, just going down to just this. It's something where it's like, can those two exist? At least here.
And in Westworld, you mean?
In Westworld. I'm not going to go farther. I'm not. I only want to go right here in Westworld.
Can free will and predestination
exist, at least in Westworld?
Yeah, I
for
think
the
so.
host?
I think so. I think, man, because I think there's a lot of like Lost tropes in here. Lost is very much, you got to watch it.
Apparently, yeah.
That Lost was all about like destiny, but also choosing your free will to get to that destiny.
Yeah.
And I think Westworld, the maze is almost like that too. I feel like Teddy's on this journey now, but this is the journey that Teddy as a host kind of needed. Because think about where we started with Teddy to where he is now. He was a guy that had no backstory from what we remember, or from what we knew. And he was always going to be like the gunslinger, the gunslinger, the good-looking gunslinger.
Yeah.
And just the hero. But if you want to take out the hero, go ahead, kill Teddy, kind of a deal. When now, that's not the same character we have.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't say he's a bad boy so much, but he's a complex. He's becoming more and more complex.
Oh, yeah.
But something I'm noticing too, the further they travel outside of Sweetwater, the more and more complex they get anyway.
Well, they say it all the time.
The stakes get higher for them and for the guests as well.
And it's interesting because the farther they get, the hosts become far more aggressive.
Yeah.
Like that moment where they're choking out Logan on the
You
episode
don't know if he's
prior.
gonna die or not.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you're not supposed to be able to kill him, if someone didn't shoot him,
And even the
he
Man
was
in
gonna
Black,
die.
who's like been pretty much invincible
Yeah.
this whole time, he's like
The
taking
Man
a
in
beating.
Black
Yeah.
got punched in the face and was like,
Well, even
like,
so,
that
he was in
it.
a vulnerable position, which we've never seen him in.
Yeah, he took a huge change in like trying to like make sure that he's like not that I wouldn't say that he's taken a heart for Teddy, but he's almost
Well, he
like
needs Teddy, and that hasn't changed.
Right. But there was this different agenda of. It just seemed as though like he was a little bit more concerned.
Look how that relationship has changed, though, where now Teddy is actually the Man in Black's protector.
Yeah.
He's the one that saves, and it's almost, I don't want to say that the Man in Black was cowering behind Teddy, because he wasn't. He was even shooting guys off too. But Teddy was the one that mowed down everybody.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You think you know a guy?" And
Yeah, and
straight
it's like,
up, he's
"You don't know me."
You don't know me at all.
But see, the thing is, for there, I feel that there was a shift in roles there, and it was only because one, the Man in Black needs Teddy up to a particular point. He doesn't know how far, but he knows he needs Teddy. So remember, when we've seen the Man in Black mow down like groups of people, he didn't have to worry about protecting anyone at that time. When he had to mow down the other people, Lawrence was already tied up, and they were like, "We're just going to focus on you. Fine, here goes the knife battle, and I'm bringing you to a gunfight, and I'm going to win."
That this episode did was that they a lot of characters actually switched roles.
Yeah.
And Teddy and the Man in Black started one way and ended up another. Like it was their very opposite. And also Ford does this with Bernard.
That's right.
Once Bernard gets cornered. Ford gets cornered.
Ford gets
They
cornered.
switch roles where Ford is now having to answer to Bernard.
Yeah.
And that's not the only one. The other one was actually Maeve.
And Felix.
And
And
they
Sylvester.
switch roles
Whoa.
where Maeve has all the control in this, and she's treating them like a host at
Yeah.
this point. So all of this was like tables turning around on
That's
everybody.
all it was, and that was great.
I guess that goes back to then the question that I had about Teddy though is, and I don't know if even like if everybody out there is thinking this too, as they're going out into Westworld away from Sweetwater, there's always the new storyline, and it has to progress anyway to keep it interesting for the host to.
You mean like the narrative?
Right, the narrative. So is this because of again the level of the narrative that they're going into, and we're just not used to seeing that, and so that's why it's being brought about, or is it because of these changes that are happening that these narratives are taking it goes back to I guess what you're saying, like free will and,
Yeah, I mean,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I completely see. Like, it's almost exactly what you're asking too, just in a different kind of way. That's really interesting.
Man.
Posing so many questions that I cannot answer.
No, yeah,
It's
that's
like
true.
you're repoing my mind.
Because when you get there, you get to that point. That's a good question that we don't have an answer to right now at the moment. I mean, continuing on and moving on with just a few changes as far as character development. We have Teresa, who essentially breaks up with Bernard.
Oh, yeah, her dynamic
in that moment, it was in that moment everything was different. Where she was like, "Well, we have to call this off." He knows about it, and that was it. And he was like, "Well, we could." He just didn't want to call it off.
No, I didn't. All right, I saw that, but I didn't read it that way.
Oh.
I read it very at a much deeper level that they were both almost talking about something completely
different. Okay.
And I think that they weren't so much talking about their relationship as they were talking about maybe discussions they may have had, because as we find out later on in the episode, she's the one that's getting information out of the park. But as we alluded to in the past, that it seemed like Bernard could have been that guy too. So maybe these were talks and she would maybe try to bring him into the fold, and that was her way of saying like, we can't, like, we're not going to do this anymore, and saying that you're kind of cut out from this. I think I read way more into it than what was on the
because
screen.
then he does come to her chambers later, or her
Chambers,
I don't
huh?
know where that came from.
That's fine. That's fine.
Her place, her room.
Fetch me a water.
She does
boudoir.
kind of act like she's the queen.
And she says to him though, I said that we couldn't have any more of these late night encounters.
Sure,
and so
sure.
It's kind of like going back to it, and he said, well,
not every encounter is supposed to be a late night encounter.
but he
you're
touches on the
too
fact
much.
that he says, well, I think you should still be aware of what's going on.
True, but again, I took that scene for something different too. Like I think that tied it a lot more into the previous scene, which we're talking about now, in terms of like, it was a cat and mouse game. I felt like,
Yeah.
but it was also like trying to let the mouse in on the secret, but at the same time being like, no, this is going to be the secret that's going to stay with me, because I think she was shaken up by the previous episode where she actually met with Ford, and she was pretty much like, we can remove you, and Ford was like, don't get in my way.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of freaked her out, and I think that now she doesn't want to get Bernard involved. That's how I took it.
It's not bad. So then we go right into Felix, back with Maeve, taking her upstairs to check out everything that's happening there. What song was that again, Daniel? That was Radiohead, motion picture soundtrack.
That was great.
Oh, there are some words.
That's
There's some
again
words
musically
in
the composer.
I almost got chills though, like
good.
listening to that and like seeing it, because that was a good.
And then Maeve, like her demeanor and expression.
Because you felt, I felt for her in terms of like, and it's crazy because we're technically, I know she's a character now with her free will, but it made us care for it, like one of the hosts, just like how probably Felix feels now. But him taking her on that journey, it was very much like,
it was chilling.
man, I can't even imagine like somebody showing me like my life and how like things kind of are when I don't perceive it the same way.
And there's also, I'm sorry, what I noticed was right before her huge meltdown, she's giving lines after lines after lines of what you expect Maeve to say as a tenure madame at the brothel, and then as soon as she comes back, and then all of a sudden there's like a vulnerability to her and a softness to her and like a naiveness that it's so different from. I mean, she's still feisty because I mean she attacks.
No,
what's
very
the
true.
guy's name?
Sylvester.
She attacks him, like, so she's still got that spunk and that feist.
Straight up female dick, yo.
She's got that. She's still got that feist, but it's funny though how, again, back to like the free will and like her making this choice. It's changed. It completely goes away from the Madame Maeve.
It does. It changes everything.
I'm curious though to see what, and I'm sure that the show will get there, is to see what Maeve's story was prior to, because we've touched on,
touched a little bit on it. He
So I'm
mentioned
really
about her
curious to see.
other builds, but also with the music, you pointed something out. Just wanted to point out some lyrics that were really interesting on it. On the song, there's portions where it says, "Help me get where I belong. I think you're crazy, maybe. It's not like the movies. They feed us on little white lies. I will see you in the next life." And then there's an earlier version of it where it goes, "Beautiful angel pulled apart at birth," which you have to see the symbolism there. "Limbless and helpless. I can't even recognize you." And it's just like, as that's happening, she's going through and she's seeing like people that she's seen in town before in Sweetwater, and they are like limbless and they're except like pretty much being torn apart at birth because they have to be rebuilt and put back together.
That must
and
be
put
like
right out there
in a weird way, like when seeing all, like remember she sees all the I guess I don't want to say dead hosts because they're not dead, but like the ones that died and they're gonna come back. And she sees like I remember like the one thing too is like the guys were drawing guns and they were just making sure they had the practice down right.
Where they were sitting at the table and they
It was
pull
like
out and then they sit
walking.
back
It
down.
was like being an inmate at an asylum and kind of like walking the halls with a free person and seeing all this crazy stuff going on because you think you're sane. So I get some of these lyrics like Arkham Asylum.
It's very, for me, it's more interesting. It's kind of like Dante's Inferno when
which we referenced last week.
Exactly, Contrabasso, and he's being brought down to the lower circles and lower rings and seeing everyone else's punishment. And it was like, oh, there goes like for example, there goes that prophet and blah blah. Why is his head on backwards? Oh, because he was a false prophet. He thought that he could see everything ahead, so we turned his head behind, so he could see everything behind him now. And it was just like, oh geez. And it's just she's seeing all of this happen. It changes you. It's like that whole idiom of, okay, your character goes into the forest, your character comes out of the forest. Are they changed? Are they new? Are they different?
One thing I did have a question with, and maybe you guys have a better explanation for it, and I was left a little baffled, is that she was wearing, what was she wearing?
I knew you were gonna say that. Gosh, I should have
like
went
a
ahead and
black
like
kind
finished
of,
your sentence.
it was like a black kind of lace
because
thing.
why
with
was she
like,
clothed at this point?
Yeah.
Whenever they're always
no,
naked.
not even
Oh, okay.
that.
He
Yes,
had
absolutely.
He had the clother if he was going to walk her through.
But why?
But,
Because the
but
thing is, if
everybody
she
would
was-
recognize her,
if-
and like if she's and like that's something too. You see him
But
holding.
they would recognize her by
Even
her
if she
clothes being
wasn't
out of
naked or-
place.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
very
But
true.
that's why. So that was the question that I had, where he has the code
pad, to make
the
it
pad,
seem like he
and
was-
so that you see when he's talking, he's never really talking to her, so it looks as though he's talking about it. So that's my question. I was like, so why did he clothe her? So if he's not trying, like, if she's a host that he's not really talking to, and he's trying to make sure that no one else catches on.
Well,
then
the only explanation I could think
it's like
of,
a field test prior.
Yeah, like a field test. That's the only thing I could have thought of.
That's what he makes it look like. He's walking through like, all right, I'm testing.
I'm
this.
testing
and
her.
it looks like
but
he's
then
speaking.
Why would he test her on those floors though?
But you have to remember also that's not his job. So someone else, if they were really paying attention, would notice.
Like, who's
what is
that
the
guy?
butcher? What is the butcher doing walking around testing her?
I mean,
but he took off some of the butcher stuff to make it look like.
But it didn't have any. So it worked for you. That scene was
it was a flaw. That was a plot hole. But the thing is, I already disband disbelief as far as believing that we're going with these robots are now becoming sentient and all this stuff. I'm not gonna go ahead and pick on this one thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I shouldn't pick it apart. But it did.
I was gonna say the only
true.
reason why I would think that the director would choose to have this character clothe Maeve is that so that it doesn't take away from everything else that's happening.
Animal dreamers, man. Animal dreamers. You saw that dude. There was there was a buffalo in there that they were trying to tame. They had it just reminded me of I don't know. It was just crazy.
Well, honestly,
it just made her more human-like. I feel like
it did make her more humanized her.
Yeah, it humanized her. One, and then it obviously didn't distract like a naked person walking around. It helped you to focus on really what she's experiencing.
That's the favorite part of the show for you, man.
But honestly, what I am going to say is you're right. One, it did humanize her. It also humanized Felix to let us know that he has a softer side of, hey, there is some level of, what do they call it when you try to cover up to an extent where it's like, you don't need to be naked. I'm not here to ogle you. And
I
then
have
also,
a question about Felix is
from a film point. I mean, just from a film point standpoint. We don't need to have gratuitous nudity all the time. And that was
I
like,
think
hey,
the show
let's
for
just
the
cover
most
this
part
up.
is very tasteful.
Yeah, it is. It's
except for last week.
They're not except for last. They're not trying to go with Game of Thrones.
But
every
I think with Felix, do you guys get the impression? Modesty. Do you guys get the impression that Felix always had a soft spot for the host? Or,
I do. It was down to whenever he's petting the bird, the way he's.
But do you think that was played upon because Maeve wasn't in sleep mode the first time and it kind of freaked him out? Do you think there was always this character?
I think it always was that character. I think he sees her differently than he sees all the others.
I was curious about that.
Because now he has this connection with her, and even before that, where she woke up the first time. After that, that face is always going to be in your mind.
Yeah, whenever
they
brought her back in, he was like, "Oh my gosh!" And he's like, "It's her. It's
her again."
Yeah,
and that was smart too. How they pointed that out. How it was like, "Oh, it's her again. Oh, it's her again." He was like, "Calm down.
Don't worry. As long as you put her in sleep mode."
And the reason she kept coming back, which we found out now, is because she was intentionally making sure she would come back. She was literally having hosts strangle her or stab her, anything, so she could come back, so she can build up to get to this point, which was great.
I know, I like
and
that
then
part.
we get to the moment where she does something that's great to Sylvester, because I freaking hate that guy so much.
Female dick, dude.
Sylvester is a dick. That guy's horrible. I mean, he was mean to Felix. Felix, such a nice guy. Look at him with the bird. Oh,
It's because I don't think you like gingers. You don't
whoa, that's not true.
Like
I dated
sherbet.
a ginger. I remember I like gingers. Gingers are nice people. They are nice people. They have souls. But I will say that ginger does not. He is mean. He was racist also. He said the whole thing about, what are you doing, taking a hentai? Wow, that's the first thing you went to? You are a racist bastard. Like, honestly. I laughed at it, but I was like, dear God, you're racist. But he goes in on it, and he starts, and when he's talking to Maeve, and he's like, well, you're a whore. I was like, man, it's a robot. Why do you have to name call with a robot? Like, you're going that low. But he's a horrible person, so later, it kind of made sense where she holds the scalpel up to his neck and tells him, like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to shut up, and we're going to continue on, etc., etc. I loved it. It was his comeuppance. Well, her comeuppance, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. That's how it is. And he deserved it. But did you guys notice Felix and Sylvester, 2 cat names? Dealing with the bird, cats, birds, Tweety. No. All right, anyway.
Maybe that's kind of a good little thing to pull into.
No, I just noticed. I was like, oh my God, I realized it right now. But how long do you think Sylvester's actually going to keep quiet? Because now after they've brought her up to this level of intelligence.
And when she says that she gets a cut and that she's going to give it to him, does she mean that, there's Westworld, the money that she makes as a madam, that she's going to get? What is that?
I think that was metaphorical.
Metaphorical, I guess. Yeah.
I think that was more in terms of you're gonna get a cut means that you can continue to do what you're gonna do with these hosts that You're not
because
supposed to do
she's an
things, but-
entrepreneur.
And
So
I'm
was
gonna-
she
and I'm
alluding
gonna-
to the fact that he also, like that one that Elise found, Elsie found with the host.
Right.
Is that what she's
yeah,
alluding
the perv.
to?
I think so.
Necroperv.
Like necroperv, yeah.
Yeah.
That's his name. Sorry.
Okay.
That's what it was on the thing. It said necroperv.
That's what I think it was more more metaphorical than it was actually, gonna happen.
Tangible money. Okay.
Going from somebody that was at least dealing with a lot of metaphor to someone who definitely is heavy-handed in everything he does, Sizemore shows up.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a while.
Sizemore, and he's been on vacation for a while.
all right, so
sick leave.
One theory that's going around right now is that Westworld is on Mars. And if you actually look at the way that they zoom the camera in, and then you see the hacienda or whatever it may be, and the way it looks like a red planet.
It does.
A deserted red planet. So I think that whole Mars theory isn't so far off. However, they can transport really fast. I was able to realize it's like,
right?
oh, hey. You know what I mean? I wish we had that technology now. I would have transported here so quick. It took me an hour to get here. Nobody cares about how long it took me to get here, but whatever.
They're experienced to get to, I'm sure.
But with Sizemore on what could be Mars, we don't know for sure, has a drunken conversation. Well, no, first before that, here comes Teresa, or Cullen, even when you want to call her. It's Teresa Cullen, so who cares? But Teresa shows up and she chastises him and pretty much says, you're a horrible person. You need to get back to work. You've been hiding out here. And, just don't let what Ford told you ruin you, essentially. And he's still pissed over it that Ford told him no, and the way he told him no was so
I don't
classic.
think she implies that he's a horrible person as much as she does. She challenges him.
You're right, 'cause she says-
to come back to work, and in a weird way, it's kind of like tough love.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. And especially because she's like, whenever Ford pitches his idea to the board and they turn it down, they're going to be looking for someone to take his
Exactly.
place. And they're not going to be looking for him here.
Exactly. I was just thinking that because I was like, I put that in the notes, like you said, and they won't be looking for him here. But with that being the case, that one piece of the sentence, and they won't be looking for him here, does that mean that you're not in the running?
No, that means
Or
get
you
off
step
your
up?
ass and
Step up so
They're
you
not
show
going
in
to
the
come
running.
look for a man sunbathing, drinking a cocktail
Yeah,
to
that means
replace
get off your
Ford.
ass and try to take what possibly could be yours if Ford's gone.
Yeah,
That's the way I took it.
I did too.
Okay, I like that. And so with that, he ends up running into Charlotte, who we find out her name later, but I'm going to say it
Man,
now.
she was hot.
Charlotte's a beautiful woman. Charlotte's a beautiful woman, man. Seriously. Like, bravo, Charlotte. Thank you very much. But so we run into Charlotte, and she's a woman with power. I love that. I gotta love that.
Yeah, maybe
But
that's why.
Let's see. Could be. But
But she had a cute little doe-eyed thing going on in the beginning.
she was
like
playing it off. She was playing it
innocent.
off, and that was interesting. And also, so is Charlotte the one that Ford was also referring to when he said, well, Teresa says, oh, well, there's someone that could be coming from the board. And he says, oh, well, other than the one that's already here? Remember he mentioned that when they were having that whole conversation and the Earth movers going? And I wonder, was that her from the jump? Was that who he was talking about?
I don't know. I don't know 100% about that. It's possible. The other option is it could have been Logan.
It still could be, but Logan is also still talking about buying them out. So I'm like, if
but
he's
then
part of the
he
board,
could be part of the board.
Yeah,
He's trying to get the
exactly.
majority share.
Yeah.
Who knows? I think that it's insinuated that this is like, oh, so this is the board. Oh, so this is the board.
But I mean, they did mention, of course, that she is a representative of the board. They did point that out, and they were like, oh, and this is Charlotte, representative of the board, while he's over here, with his winky out. Just acid rain, as he said, or what's it? His schwanz? Yeah, his schwanz sitting out.
As he's being on the map.
Oh man, how are you not fired for that immediately? I don't understand that.
Well, I honestly think that's an interesting point though that you bring up. Why wasn't he fired from that? I personally think it's because he's the best at what he does. He knows it, and everybody else knows it. But Ford is cutting him off at the limbs every single time because Ford does not want to lose the power of being the whatever of that park.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that a lot of people, and this was referenced in the first episode, that people, he referenced it, that people are looking for a change, and we might have thought, well, maybe he's talking about Teresa. I think he possibly could have been talking about himself at this point now.
Oh, nice.
I mean, he feels like he was very entitled to being the next heir apparent to run this place.
Right.
And I think Teresa gave him a kick in the ass, and that's what's going to hopefully happen. Maybe. Who knows? We'll see. Man.
Let's go from Sizemore back into something that I find a little bit more interesting, because we kind of mentioned it already, which is Elsie pretty much telling us what's happening with the Saboteur and who the Saboteur is.
I love
All
this.
the espionage.
Yeah, I kind of...
Yes.
Truthfully, I don't care about Elsie. But...
What?
I don't. I honestly don't.
Well, you might not have to anymore.
I might not.
I'm gonna say
seems
something after you're done.
I don't care about her as much, but I like the fact that she is being used as a plot device to carry that portion of the story along.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can see
okay.
that.
It's weird with her. I think in this episode I enjoyed her the most though, because I think she was the catalyst to unlocking all these secrets for us. But you knew it comes at a cost. I mean, come on.
Of course. We thought it was going to be actually Bernard at the beginning, so yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. So it was interesting though that theater looked creepy as hell though. That's what I imagined.
Why do they have abandoned theaters there? Don't
looks
you want to
crazy.
use all the
But
space?
I think it's interesting that her character, because she's obviously very attached to Host, at least that's
Right.
what's been insinuated. But at the same time, it feels like she's, not overprotective of him, but I feel like sometimes she doesn't care too. So it's weird.
Yeah. It's a weird disassociation that she does as far as the connection with them, because there are moments where, like you said, she was sitting there alone and makes out with one.
Well, it makes sense. She's a
after
very
that-
conflicting character, because to me, I think sometimes she doesn't. I feel like, because we all thought that she was working with Bernard to get information out of the park, but now it seems like she's such a hardcore. No, I'm gonna tattle, and I'm about the park.
The only reason she was doing that was because it was like, one, I hate Teresa and I want Teresa to pay.
Yeah, that's true.
And then she said it to Bernard, who Bernard was like, let me tell her, because I don't want to lose my connection, which is, you know what I mean. So that's yes, I'm saying that. That's what he was concerned with. I don't think he was really too concerned, but you said you don't like Elsie. The thing is, what I love about this show is the female characters.
Oh, they're
I told
strong.
you off. I told her off air. Like, the great thing about it is every one of them, we're seeing them progress as far as being stronger, far more independent, and actually in control, versus the men, which is their counterpart, who happen to be sometimes bumbling, lost in their emotions, don't know exactly what they're trying to do, or just, that's it. Bumbling, lost in their emotions, don't know what they're trying to do. We have Teresa, who's like, this is what the board needs to have done. And then she's also a saboteur, or in some level of espionage, but taking their own data and sending it to one of their own satellites. And so it's kind of like, I don't know if that's really sabotage or not.
But that's something that needs to get cleared up, because I'm still a little confused on that too.
Because she's doing that, and then we have...
What do you think, Maverick? You've been pretty quiet.
I know. I'm trying to focus. I also am trying not to cough. So I'm like, whenever I had something I really know it's concrete and I need to get my point across, and I'm saying it. But every time
She's
I speak,
pulling the curtain back.
she's
it like tickles my throat, so it makes me want to cough.
We're having horrible weather changes here in LA.
I think I could see where Teresa and Teresa and
How many people do you know named Therese?
I know some people.
Named Therese?
There's someone named
Anyway,
Therese somewhere.
Therese, Bernard, and Sizemore could all be in on it in their own way. Like, maybe that's a little team. And so with each one of them having a little bit different of an agenda.
Right, yeah.
And so you see Bernard, like, being shocked that Teresa is the one that's been tapping into the satellite the last time. But it's just more of like, maybe because she's doing something else on her own. But I definitely see that maybe there's a team there that's going on.
I like that.
Well, I think that Teresa's a very intelligent person, but her plan's starting to unravel.
Mm-hmm.
And, for example, she knows that she's playing Sizemore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, also now, I think she knew that she was going to get caught. with what she was doing, but I don't think she thought she was going to get caught this soon. And I think that Ford is so smart that he's putting up these protocols to block Teresa per se, or maybe you know what? Truth is,
Like an armadillo justice kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be like an armadillo justice.
that's
kind
not
of
what
thing.
armadillo justice is, Maverick. Armadillo justice is what Teddy did when he killed all those people,
Okay.
I'll just mow
all
them
those
down.
other hosts.
I thought those were
I
just
think
stray
Ford,
bullets.
Ford could be trying to be devilish.
Ford is definitely devilish, but I think that with you made me lose my train of thought now with your
Sorry. So Ford is on to Teresa, and she's
Yeah.
trying to block her. So he's setting up these satellites.
Oh no! I was gonna say that I think it's possible that Ford let her do all this stuff because maybe Ford wants some of this stuff to get out because it'll implement other plans that he has in play. Because the things that we're seeing with Ford is he's a chess player and he's always thinking 4 steps ahead. That's why he's like letting the Man in Black being. You could tell he's sweating it a little bit, but at the same time he's very much like in control, and he's very much like I sent you, Teddy, to bring you on this journey now.
Right.
But why is the question. And I think the Man in Black doesn't know that yet.
Okay.
Me personally, this is what I think. I also think that Ford, this information that's leaking, I do think Ford's letting it get out. Because Ford, another thing with Maeve, Ford says something very interesting. He says, you think there's just cameras everywhere in the park. Well, there's cameras here too.
Yeah.
Well, with Maeve, he has to at least know some of this stuff is happening.
I don't know if he's
Maybe we don't know yet.
Yeah,
but that would be a
exactly.
plot hole if it's not. Because if you know that Teresa and Bernard are having a relationship, how would you not know that Felix is doing this? Unless Felix is that low level, which could be the case too.
Well, we
know,
do
falls under
have
cracks. Yeah.
we do have the concern actually when you talk about low level because there's 2 things. One, also it wasn't just Teresa logging into that thing. There was also Arnold's codes, and you're like, who is using Arnold's codes?
Right.
Isn't Arnold
I
himself?
have this idea. I don't know. Maybe it's another crackpot, but it's just more. It's not really a crackpot. It's just more of like, this is who I think it is, and that's it. It's there. Maybe I'll wait. Should I say it now?
Okay.
Say it now. Go ahead, say it now. Give us some armadillo justice.
I'm gonna wait.
Oh, okay. All right. So from there, also, when you talked about other people in their, I guess their level priority or whatever. So who is the person that's also hacking into her Maeve's little, I guess.
Oh yeah, because they addressed that. They said someone else has already come
someone
in.
else.
That's my point. Somebody has to have eyes on what's going on and what's happening.
Man.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think. Listen, we're in a place called Westworld where everything is monitored. Why?
Yeah.
And even Elsie brings it up too. Like when she brings up to the Necro. What's his name? The Necro or
the Necro, the guy getting it on with the
whatever
the-
his name is. She brings it up like we have cameras
Necroperf.
everywhere. The Necroperf. We have cameras everywhere. What makes us think that we wouldn't have cameras on Felix too, though?
It's very true. You're very true.
You know. So who do I think is getting into the codes with Maeve, and who's also the same person? Do I think I don't even know if it's the same person that's dealing with this whole Arnold thing. Everybody on the show has an agenda, and I don't know what any of it is.
Do you think you happen to know who was the one that happened to Maeve?
No,
I think that was who I was gonna say, but again.
Oh, who?
Ooh.
That's
She wants to hold on because
Oh
it's part
my
of her crap. It
gosh.
goes even larger than that. Oh,
Who do I? All right, if you had to, if I'm just gonna, you have to guess.
Oh shoot!
Just,
Okay,
I'm gonna
alright,
take
fine.
a guess because I don't know, and I don't.
Okay,
don't
I gotta
even
guess
know.
already. I gotta guess. Go.
No, you go first. What I just said.
Stubbs.
Oh.
Security guy.
Dang it, that's what I was gonna
Oh,
say.
okay. Well, wait, hold on because you have a reason as to why I don't.
Oh no.
Oh dang. Okay. Well,
I
we
mean,
thought
I
it was
kind of
Stubbs.
do.
Wow,
I think
okay,
it's
so hold on
Stubbs.
to it then.
No, just
No?
because like he's so much out of the scenes enough, but with enough power and like understanding of these people, that it's just like one of those things where, as a director,
just
as
thought
someone in
about
the film, or like
I just thought about it.
gives it like that blow your mind.
You know
no
what,
way,
though?
I didn't
Something
even
else
think it
too.
was him.
Don't say anything. I know you.
That I think that I think now that you're bringing that up, Stubbs is also when he taking Elsie down this path, and they're talking about like the
God,
galaxies and
man.
stuff.
That's why I said don't say anything.
He's doing a misdirection to her. He's trying to throw her off the path. I think you're right.
See, that's what I was just gonna say. Think about it. Stubbs was the one that said, Orion. Yeah, it's Orion.
Just making
that's
up
what-
excuses.
And then later we find out, no, Orion has 4 stars, not 5. That 5th one was the laser target. But he was quick to come up and say, oh, it's Orion. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. And then when it smashed his head, he was the first one to say, it just freaked out. It just freaked out. He didn't go into anything else. It just freaked out. He's working with Teresa. And he was out there. He's probably the one that has Arnold's codes, or maybe, I don't know. Or he's pretty much doing it for Teresa. And then someone comes to look into it. He grabs her.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know that he's working with Teresa, but I do think that it was maybe him.
Or maybe
You just
he's
say
he's a host created by Arnold.
Which everybody could be hosts.
Everyone could be host at this moment. Speaking of hosts, we talk about 5 abnormalities in Sector 17. So, in Sector 17, we...
Which Bernard goes down now.
Exactly. So, Bernard heads
Well, that's
down
cool,
to...
though. The one thing I did like about that scene is now we know how they... You mentioned this in the past. How they get to
they have them everywhere.
Westworld, but these little things that are just like elevators are pretty much... That's pretty cool. I like that. I don't know.
I think that was just one way. I think everybody's main way is that train.
Well, I mean, for the people that work there.
Okay.
Because Elsie used it a few episodes prior. And they pop
like
up
that.
in those elevators.
I do like
so,
that.
boom, Bernard gets in the elevator. And when he gets in the elevator, he finds something at a house, which is a family.
At the center of the maze is... what do they say about that?
Oh, the house?
The house. Just saying.
So you think essentially the house in the middle, that's it? Right
Well,
there?
no, I'm not saying that, but I am saying... I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I am saying, though, that reference that Teddy made early on in the episode, could be that house. And it could be... Because he said this is an old native tale.
Yeah, true.
And I think that... something that we've seen with natives, they worship these... Well, what we know is the people that go in and...
Shades.
Yeah, the people that go in...
They're called the Shades.
Shades, yeah. So I think that obviously there's some clout to this, and I think that the man that never dies could be Ford, and I think that Ford in turn could be Arnold now.
Well, yeah,
Which was
especially
one of
now.
my crackpot theories. Remember I said
That's right.
That means you would have been right.
Well, we don't know yet.
Still have a
but
few
still,
more
4 episodes
exactly.
left, but like,
we're still waiting.
I mean, who knows if we even get this Arnold reveal this season?
Well, that was interesting, but we did get at least the reveal that, hey, we know who Arnold isn't, which is the guy in that picture.
Hey, quick question. Yeah, so is that's the that was the guy in the picture was his dad?
Was
Vlad?
Ford.
What was his name?
Ford's-
Vlad?
I don't even know what his
I don't know
dad's
his name was either.
But it's Ford's dad, and then there's Minnie Ford, which we already knew that was Minnie Ford.
Robert.
I mean, what little kids
Boy.
walking around with a walking stick? Boy. Dressed in a whole suit. I don't know. But so we got him, and then he points out and says... His brother pats him on the head, so we know. And then he says mother and points out to the mother and the dog.
Yep,
so
that's 5.
we see the whole house. We see the whole family right there. And that's Ford's family. Now, the thing is... What else has Ford lied to us about now? Because now we know why did he even lie about the Arnold thing? I'm really hurt, I'm sorry. But why did he lie about the Arnold thing and give it to Bernard and say, oh yeah, Arnold, here he is. You understand that means he had to arrange to, like, why did he choose to take that picture
I don't quite
of him
get
and his
what-
dad?
Oh, I see what
And
you're
then
saying.
show it to him and say, oh, this is Arnold.
Well, I don't necessarily think... I mean, yes, that was a picture of him and his dad, but it was really a picture of him and Arnold's creation. Or
Was it, or was it a picture of him and his dad? His dad could have still been alive during that
wait,
time.
you're going to tell me his dad looked like that when Ford looked like that? I don't think that... I mean, I think
His
that there's
dad
a bigger,
looked that. Oh yeah, because they do.
There's a
kinda
bigger
get
age
what you're
difference.
saying.
I think that...
But that was like a 25,
I know,
30-year-old
even though
Ford and a
Ford-
50-year-old dad.
I don't know. I don't think that.
No?
I don't.
Okay, so then it's Ford and his creation. So Ford happened to have that
Well,
picture.
I mean,
and
listen,
it
you
shows
could be
it.
completely right. Now that I think about it, because he did look younger. They de-aged him in that picture.
Yeah. But the thing with it is still, why did he choose to show that picture and say, oh yeah, this was Arnold?
Or maybe he was just saying... He didn't say that this was Arnold. He was just talking about Arnold. He didn't say this is Arnold.
So that's just weird.
Well, that's
so
whenever he
I'm
did
talking
bring- he
about
did
Maverick,
bring-
Joe, and blah 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 Maverick, and I just hand you a
No,
picture
I mean,
of my
listen,
phone and I say,
if you-
blah 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 more
If you're
Maverick.
giving me... I don't necessarily look at it like that. I think it's like he was more so talking about the story of Arnold, but showing him pictures from his past just in general.
He only showed him one picture.
But they also did say pictures of Arnold, or there's no trace
There's
of
no
Arnold that does
trace,
exist.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that this would,
Qualify that, yeah.
qualify as that.
See, but then...
Right? You're on my side with
but
this one,
But
right?
Bernard
And-
walks in the cabin, in the house. First thing he does, he looks at the guy and says, are you Arnold? Like, he recognizes the face and says, are you Arnold? He did that on purpose. And that's what he did. And then comes the moment, like you said,
Oh
where
no,
the change in
I'm not
character.
saying that he didn't do it intentionally,
Uh-huh.
but he just never said that was Arnold
No,
in the picture.
no,
He just never was like, "Hey, this guy's Arnold."
It's true, he didn't say that.
He's. This is what I'm saying about Ford. He's. Well, I should give credit to really Jonathan Nolan or whoever the writer was for this episode. Is that they're crafting a character that's so intelligent
Oh yeah.
that I don't know,
Evil
man.
genius, man.
But that's the question. He might not even be evil. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't
He
even.
may just
I
be
don't
a
know
host that
anything
killed his
about him.
creator. Who knows?
That's a possibility. But then again, he could be the one. I don't know, man. Listen, he's such a baffling character to me, but he's so smart and so cerebral with everything that he does.
My thing is,
it's crazy.
I don't know what's real, what's not now.
Well, that's the whole point of the show, though, right?
He says Arnold built them as a gift for me, and every artist
Like,
should
let
have
me
something of
indulge,
himself
yeah.
inside of his art, and blah blah blah, and all that. And I'm like, am I supposed to take some of what you said, cut it off, and only take one part and not the other? Because every artist should have a piece of themselves. Is that Arnold speaking about himself? And did Arnold put a piece of himself in there?
That goes
but
back
not
to
for
my
Ford?
back to my whole sentiment thing of like Arnold living on forever.
Forever, yeah.
Or Ford living on.
Arnold.
Okay, I thought you said Ford living on.
I don't know. Everything's just blowing my mind, and the numbers aren't matching up. Like, for example, 82 hosts are in the park, and 47 of them were made by Arnold. I don't know why they told us that, but I'm writing that down. That has to be important
It did that
later.
because as soon as Bernard was the one he told had created these 5 characters. That Arnold created these 5 characters for him. So then all of a sudden now, but these are the only ones that are registered to and listen only to Ford. So that's where Bernard now is going through and researching these characters, and he's like, okay, it lists them alphabetically. So he's like going through looking for something, or just wondering.
Oh yeah,
what
how
else
many
is
other
there?
ones could he have on his whole payroll, essentially, to kill, and no one will listen unless he says something?
Yeah,
That would be my first worry too.
Which that was something too that what I always want to say, Elsie. Okay.
I know it's so hard.
Let's just not correct. I want to see how many different E characters, like Elise,
and we'll just nod.
Elsa. She says that what she discovered were that these hosts could actually lie to us and could cause harm to us, which we already kind of established with Delores way back then, which is what I was alluding to, was that she was manipulating the situation where she would lie to Ford, or lie to Bernard, showing you that they're capable of what she discovered already.
Man, that's that's so much. That's so much. There's so much in this episode. I don't know where to go. But from there, looking at Elsie, because I guess we don't know if we'll see Elsie again.
My assumption is that we are, mainly because we don't see her die on screen.
Very true.
So,
if we don't see a die,
if you don't see a death, then
probably tied up to a tree later.
I was gonna say, Teddy, we thought he died.
a great point,
we thought he chopped up and everything.
Hey, I have a question about that, actually. Back to that episode. Do you think that could have been Wyatt that attacked Teddy?
Well, there were 4 of them, or 5
Or
of them.
Wyatt's crew, then?
I don't know. Either that, or it was, what's his name?
Because I just read a theory about a Minotaur being Wyatt. There's a guy with a Minotaur mask that could have been Wyatt.
I get that. A Minotaur, once again, having to deal with a maze. That would be smart.
You're like, wait, what?
If it has to be a Minotaur and a maze, I would get it. But why did you read a theory that the Minotaur is Wyatt?
Because it goes back to this old. I think I read this whole theory about. I want to say it's Ulysses and how I don't know. It was a really. There's
Greek mythology that says inside,
yeah.
The keeper of the maze is a Minotaur, and he hunts you down while you're going through the maze, and if you don't get out in time, the Minotaur kills you.
Yeah,
I understand that.
But there was actually a reference. There was actually the Minotaur head on the show. I'm gonna pull up a picture for you guys.
Dear God, I don't even remember that, but
Maybe.
okay, that could be.
You
the
keep
case.
talking while I look this up, team.
That could be the case.
He would be the first thing that if there was a Minotaur, that would be the first clue. I know we joked about it earlier. We were like, didn't it sound like a T-Rex? But that was
just a mask and everything. I do remember that. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
But okay, I get it. That have been Wyatt. Well, I'm thinking those are Wyatt's men. So yeah, that was the leader of Wyatt's men, the guy that had the little Minotaur mask, and then the men that came with the axes and just knocked him out and tied him up to a tree.
Yeah.
Because he later says, Wyatt tied you up here.
Whatever, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent on good old Wyatt.
Speaking of Wyatt, though, when they did do that whole flashback, and it's Wyatt and Teddy killing everyone.
Teddy Flood.
Teddy Flood. That's it. That's right. I got to remember his name. You mentioned earlier how if it could be like a whole Tyler Durden kind of situation. I know I slightly debunked it, but the thing with it still nonetheless, I still have the question of how much of that was Teddy versus how much of that was Wyatt.
Well, also exactly.
Because when it comes down to it, we saw him do his whole change, like we said, mowed down everyone, as you saw called it, armadillo justice.
Some armadillo justice. A tall tale of some armadillo justice.
Lays everyone out, and even the Man in Black is kind of shocked still. Like, what the heck? I can't believe it.
Well, I mean, because his story was that they'll follow us.
Well,
so.
you know what was interesting too? You can almost see the shock on his face because Teddy, the Teddy that he's always known, has been so passive. Not passive. I shouldn't say passive. He's never passive, but he's always been this guy that's always upstanding and just that stalwart hero of the narrative of Westworld. And I think it shocked him a little bit to be like, this is. But I also think in his head he's like, Ford is playing a really intricate game here.
I wonder, is someone also changing Teddy's prime directives like they're changing Maeve's?
I think so.
And I wonder if that's the case, who is doing it? Is it Arnold?
Yeah.
Is it Ford?
But again, or
That's
the
another
brother
interesting
that
thing, too.
they get down in there.
Because
That's right.
There's the other interesting thing too is
He is
Teddy
affected by
did
narrative.
say that this when Wyatt said he heard the voice of God and he started talking about some really strange things.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's when Wyatt went off.
You'd have to assume that he was talking about Arnold, and then Wyatt had to have this sense of enlightenment, kind of like how we're seeing Delores and some of these other hosts that are getting, and maybe Wyatt was just ahead of that prior, and yeah.
And going from one level of prime directive to, in fact, two others, little Ford killing his greyhound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of eerie. It's always scary when a kid kills like an animal. That's
Well, he
something
lies
people
about it,
always
that he
worry about
doesn't-
it.
he
No, and
That
Ford
was the
called him
interesting
out on
part.
it, and then yet another Arnold.
Yeah, he says analysis, and he clicks in, and then
Boy.
boy analysis. Well, he can't even call him his.
He does sometimes.
He did call him Robert once,
Couple times.
when he had him open up his face for Bernard.
That was crazy.
That was the only time.
Turn the other cheek.
He turned Robert, turn the other cheek, and and then after that, it's been boy. When he gets upset, see. I don't know. I feel that Anthony Hopkins, or at least his character, is a guy that would beat his wife and kids. Because no,
That took a turn.
When he talks to him, he's like boy and analysis.
That got dark.
When he think about it before when he was talking to Delores, you're hurting me. Like, remember, he's grabbing her hand when he doesn't like what she's saying.
That's why
and he
I
starts
think
to grab
that he
her
could
hand.
possibly be a host, because he has these ties, and for some odd reason he does not like Delores.
Oh no!
But this could be because this Arnold, he views it as, maybe Arnold thinks it's Delores is his greatest creation.
Well, why does he keep her around? That's kind of weird.
Soul greatest creation.
Yeah, it's like he wants to keep her around,
But then why doesn't he just put her in mothballs? Right?
No, but see, that's the thing. But remember, there's a moment where he did speak to her, and he's like, "Are you enjoying your time in your modest little loop?" Like, just talking down to her, like, you're a piece of filth, loop, like that to her, and she's like, "It's okay." And he's like, "Analysis." He gets mad at her, grabs her hand. It's just
even that scene where
Ford is
he's
that
like,
guy.
when she's like, were we good friends once or something? And he's like, no,
I would never say that.
I wouldn't say that at all.
Because he doesn't like her.
But that makes me feel that there's an underlying thing that had to have happened with Delores.
Well, remember,
But
what
was
he
it
says,
just in
if you-
general? Was he just talking in general? Like, I have no heart or care for any of these hosts.
But I don't think that's necessarily true, because look at the time he spends with the one that drinks and the
Bob
Yeah.
or Billy or whatever that
I
one
know.
is. But remember, he does. She
Let's
was
drink to the girl on the reg.
white
Black
shoes.
shoes.
She was gonna be part of the rebellion, but said no. That Arnold apparently was going to do. Remember, then he asked her, if you had more time in your loop, would you have been a hero or a villain?
Yeah.
And there was no answer, and then he gets mad and squeezes. He gets mad at her a lot. See, I'm just saying that. It squeezes her hand. You're hurting me. I don't know. But that's, so Ford finds out that Mini Ford lied to him. So that has to upset him, because it's like, okay, yes, that was a creation by Arnold, but yet I made my tweaks to it, and it's supposed to be mine
Ford
now.
lying. That's my point.
And then from there we get to Maeve, and her prime directive is being changed, like we addressed earlier. We still don't know who did it. Maybe it was Arnold too. Who knows? But Maeve becomes the smartest person in the
She
park.
makes some alterations.
Yes.
Some requests.
I told you, like, this is the thing I said.
What if it's Maeve? What if Maeve found the center of the maze, and that's the maze?
Oh, just the bulk of getting that whole thing? That could be it. That would be great, because now we're going to have some fun. And that was, like, amazing to me. But like I said before, the great thing about this, at least the writing and how they break down the characters, is the women. We have Delores, who
is not even in this episode.
I know, that's crazy.
Crazy.
But could be like, she could end up later becoming the big bad. Arnold could end up taking her over, and she could become the big bad. We don't know. But she's so intriguing.
Well, that's
she's so important
another
to
thing
this
that's
whole thing.
important to realize about Westworld is that I don't think we have any clear-cut villains or heroes.
No.
I don't necessarily. Even with Teddy at this point now, I don't necessarily think there's anybody I can be like, yeah, I'm behind this person 100%.
No, you can't.
Teddy would be the closest for me, though. I'd kind of want to see him, whatever. But
Now, understanding his past, would he?
I don't know. That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
It's like life. Everything's in gray. There's no black or white. It's kind of everything's in a weird kind of hue, and you have to figure it out and figure out what's best or what's not best for you. I don't say it's like on a niche kind of scale, but it's like you are kind of weighing out what's the net gain versus net pleasure, blah blah, etc. You're trying to figure all that out, especially when it comes to the characters. But I love how the breakdown goes,
So,
and then.
Go
Boom. Maeve becomes. Is she fully conscious? Is she fully aware? Is she sentient? I know we don't know yet. But I'm asking.
What's funny is that
I'm
sorry. Phoenix talks about the difference between Maeve and her, and she's like, "But we feel the same." And he goes, "Well, we are. Like, we're exactly the same. The only difference is," and he points to her head, and he says that. He even points out the fact that they are so much smarter than us,
Your
and they have like
I said that already.
all-knowing. But then he says that the only difference is that you can't unlock. Like, we control you. We unlock
control,
it.
yeah.
So now that he just turned it all the way up, does that mean that now she's in full control of that?
I think she's She's smart. Like, she is smarter than she's going to be the
She's
smartest
rocket
person,
science
literally.
smart. Yeah.
Well, in the park.
Yeah.
And I think that she's going to perceive things very different. She's going to be very aware and perceive things a lot differently. I'm really excited.
I was just gonna say, like, so does that mean that now she's human? I mean, there's still
No.
robots, but he was just
Robots.
saying the only thing that's different is like that they are way smarter and that they can't unlock it. Like, the people that control it.
She can't be. I don't think she's human. Well, obviously she's not human. She wasn't
Right,
born.
right.
But even besides that, when she was a human trait is something where something about, like, if I wouldn't hit you, but if I did hit you, you'd feel it. You don't really get a say in how much you're gonna feel it. But she lowered
Well,
her.
she did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She played God with herself. So that's like.
She was like, turn down my loyalty. Nobody's been loyal to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I just thought that was like a key thing, was like him pointing out that they couldn't unlock that level of intelligence, and then she just did. So obviously, that's how they ended it. The music came about. It's going to play a huge role.
So questions that we got answered.
I was just going to say, questions that we got answered. Well, Maeve has been getting herself killed on purpose. We know that now.
I think we knew that before.
Yeah. Well, but now you definitely see it. We definitely already knew that was Minnie Ford, but that was a question a lot of people kept saying was answered. Sizemore is still around. And Teresa was transmitting the data out. So those are questions that we got answered, like who was transmitting the data, Maeve. Those are questions that we got answered. What else did we get answered in this episode? When you really think about it, I'm like, ooh, was there anything else?
I think just the answers came with that the people within the park. The answers came. The characters came, like the asked questions. They had their answers answered.
There
Does
you
that
go.
make sense? Because I remember thinking when I watched this one, finally, I know it sounds bad, but I was like, finally, there's kind of like a semi-break to my brain.
Good.
Where like
Good.
there wasn't so many levels of stories and different tangents and things I was having to keep up with and like dissect and make sure I put it all down so that I can comment on it.
We
and
know
this
that Bernard wasn't smuggling out the
Wasn't smuggling out the
that
information.
was a question
That's
that was
true.
pending.
Right. I just saying, like, this one was a little bit more of a relaxing episode as far as like to the brain.
You consider that relaxing? I thought this episode was so intense that like I was like, when I went to sleep, I was like, man, I shouldn't have watched this right before I went to bed because I was like,
it's gonna be running in my head.
It's in my
man.
head now, and I gotta
was.
think about it. And I was thinking about it all day.
It was.
I don't know. I guess because maybe just following along with Maeve, there wasn't there obviously.
You know
there was
why? It's because it's for you. It's subconsciously. It's because Delores wasn't in the episode, and you subconsciously were like, you didn't take yourself out of it, but at the same time, your character didn't have your character wasn't like in part of any of these stakes.
Yeah, and Maeve is my spirit animal, so I was so in on it. I am so in.
And my
on
spirit
it right
animal, I don't even have one. It's
Teddy.
It's not. I don't think it'd be
It's
Teddy.
freaking Teddy.
I like Teddy, but I don't think he's my spirit animal.
Yeah, Teddy's your Teddy.
I was gonna say
Logan. So that's but still you were in it. You were caring because you're worried about it.
I mean,
your
I know.
spirit animal is let's drink to the lady with the white.
I would be. My spirit animal is Teddy. I can't even say that.
Teddy.
Like legitimately.
Is it the Man in Black?
Nah, it's probably Teddy. I like Teddy. I like Teddy's character. I think he is a complex.
Now.
So new questions. Still, I'm gonna ask it again. Why did Ford lie about Arnold?
Why did Ford lie about everything?
We don't know what he lied about. What did he lie about? There are so many questions.
Well, the main question is who was the one that knocked out Elsie, Elise, Allison,
Elsie,
whatever it may be.
Who was the one that
Elizabeth,
knocked out
Ellie?
Elsie? Is Ford a fraud? I mean, that's a question I want to know. Like, how much did Ford make versus how much Arnold made?
board
Is
member-
Arnold
47
real?
versus
Is
82.
Arnold real? Yeah, the board member going to the park.
Is it her? Is
Arnold still
someone else?
alive? You know,
That's a good
there's-
question. Is Arnold still alive? Did he even actually die? We don't know now because Ford's a dirty little liar.
Right,
So-
and then who's programming the host now, and are they acting out of free will or their narrative?
And is Sylvester going to be a rat? Even though he's a cat in Looney Tunes, but is he going to be a rat in this show?
And will Maeve be the one that leads what everyone is hoping to be a rebellion for the host?
And will we get some more Armadillo Justice?
Oh my god! I think that's the last on Armadillo Justice we're gonna get.
We just need like the saviors to come in and take over everything.
The Saviors?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh,
to come in and
Like just
that's
answer
good.
all of our questions. You know.
All right, so now the biggest part, I guess, to say before we say goodbye, crackpot theories. Joe, do you want to go first, last? You want?
Because I got to.
I'll go
I'm
first
gonna-
then.
You go first.
If Maverick.
I was just saying, I'm still gonna stick to my original. One of my because there's like constantly every episode allows you to have a new one. But one of my original ones that Ford is Arnold. That I think that like he may have killed Arnold and took over his identity and.
Didn't I say that? No, never mind. I didn't say that.
This was episode 3. Go back and watch it.
I know.
said this.
I know.
And I mean, I guess one of mine got debunked with saying that I thought maybe the Man in Black was Arnold because he'd been there for 30 years, just as long. And so, but he addresses it in last week's episode, saying that, you know, the answer to all these things, I need a shovel to go dig up the man that.
Yeah.
So that kind of got debunked, but and then I guess like what we talked about our theory of who that Stubbs is the one that.
Oh
took
yeah.
out.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good theory. That's actually good.
That is a good one. I think
like
that
that.
one's pretty solid. Good job, Maverick.
Yeah, give her a high first. She deserves it.
Why did you do that?
I didn't. You did that.
You did
did
that.
that.
No,
I did?
you did.
Look, the way you had your hands, it didn't look like it. It looked like it. Whatever.
Anyway, go.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was so weird, but so great. Oh, the things that happen on the show. Mine, I guess, is the maze, or at least the little etching of the maze. If you ever look at it, there's a man in the middle of it, and the man in the middle actually has one leg that is not connecting to the rest of the maze. And usually when people follow the maze, they like to go through the spaces. I'm saying instead of going through the spaces, follow the lines. And when you do, you'll actually notice that, once again, that leg isn't touching. I think for some way or some reason or ideal, the maze itself is really just a map of the brain, the human brain. And each leg or arm or appendage connects to a different lobe. There are 4. And there's one lobe that isn't connected, and I feel that one lobe that isn't connected is the one thing that separates us from them. And when it is connected, well, then they've reached the end of the maze. When they reach the end of the maze or in the middle of the maze, they'll find Arnold as well, somehow resurrecting him. I guess if they get enough... If they become sentient, then they'll connect with Arnold. Then Arnold may take them over and then lead his rebellion and do exactly what he wanted to do from the beginning. That's really deep.
Yeah. Oh,
but
and
that's what I think.
One last question is this thing that Ford is tearing down Westworld for, bulldozing everything over
new story?
for his storyline. Still, we haven't really gotten an idea of what that is.
No.
There's a chapel involved. There's like some other little characters that he's introduced a little bit, but
Oh, yeah. But what is it? That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a good question. And with that, I think we have everybody's crackpot theory, or did we?
The natives are like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones, and I don't think we're really going to get their reveal until like towards later seasons. I think that they are going to be a driving force going forward, and I think that they are enlightened. I think that they are people that have had visions in the past, or not people, but hosts that have had visions in the past, and I think that it's almost going to become a religion, and this religion is going to take over Westworld, and what's going to happen is it's going to spread like a disease. And once that happens, everyone's going to get enlightened. Everyone. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's our crackpot theories. That's our questions. That's our answers. That's our breakdown of the show. We did a lot today, guys.
oh my
We
gosh,
did a
yeah.
lot.
Probably sorry so much. We really went into that one.
Sorry, we went into a lot of it.
Because there was
but
a
the
lot to
episode,
talk about.
Exactly. The episode was big. It was engrossing, so we had to cover it. Make sure you do subscribe to us here on that hashtag show and keep the conversation going all week long on Twitter, Instagram.
Use that
and
hashtag Armadillo Justice.
Don't use that hashtag. Use the hashtag Bullets and Milk and keep the conversation going even in the comments below. Trust me, we will interact with you and talk about it, and we find a really good one, we'll make sure to discuss it. We didn't do it this week because you guys had really good ones. They were in depth, and unfortunately we didn't have the time, but we do read them. So with that, everybody, say goodbye.
Bye.
Bang,
Do a
bang,
Maverick
and-
high five, whatever this is.
Bang bang go
They're
vote,
gonna
guys.
see it.
That's, you know what that is, right?
I know what it is, but I was wondering when
Do you
she
know
was
she
doing
knows?
it.